All right, I'm here today with Coss Marte. Coss, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm good. How's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me. We were just chatting here off camera. You're sitting in front of a bank vault. That's pretty cool. There at your office, you got an old school bank vault, huh?
Yeah, it's a crazy. It's a real crazy vault. It's like 2 feet of like concrete and steel and cast iron gate, and it's like made from I think the 20s or something. It's over 100 years old. Crazy.
That's really
They
cool.
built it with building.
Very cool. Very cool. We'll just kind of dive in here, man. It's been a while since you and I really sat down and talked. You and I first met, gosh, I think it's been like 6 years ago now. We talked about this last week, and you and I met on the way to prison, of all things. I was
Yeah.
a volunteer with an awesome organization called Defy Ventures, and for those who have never heard of Defy, it's a really cool program that goes in and educates and trains and helps the inmates who have interest in becoming entrepreneurs and starting businesses of their own. Really cool program, worth looking into if you have never heard of it. So I did a volunteer as a mentor to coach the inmates on their business pitches, and then they graduate from this awesome program. We went back and watched the graduation ceremony. So as fate would have it, we were there's a few different prisons they do throughout the country, and the one I was called to was about what is it, like an hour north of LA? Cost, is that where that's at? Kern Valley.
Yeah, it was up like about an hour and a half. It felt like a long ride,
It was a hole
you
in that
know.
in that bus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like us staring at the desert. Which I think it was it Lancaster?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's been about 6 years. So as fate would have it, you and I sat in the bus next to each other, and you kind of unpacked your story a little bit for me. So I've been following along, and man, what an inspiration it's been to watch your journey. And I don't think you have a stop or a pause button. You just keep going. So I was eager to get you on here, man. So kind of diving right into it before we get into kind of the inspirational part of your story. Let's kind of take it back to take me through your childhood. What was that like? Where did you grow up? And what was it like being a kid for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Lower East Side of New York City. It was not the nicest neighborhood, in New York City. This is one of the neighborhoods that like NYPD really targeted back in the 80s and 90s. It actually made up one of the seven neighborhoods that made up 75% of the whole entire prison population in New York State. So there was a lot of people that I seen, go to prison and then out and sell drugs and gangs and all the crimes you could probably think of. I seen that growing up in the streets, and um, it was just something that I alluded to because, when I was a kid, running around, these guys used to give me dollars, that people that was standing on the corner selling drugs to the people, lining up. It was heroin lines around the block, and that's what I grew up seeing, and I thought that was normal. And so um, I thought being a drug dealer and having all the money in the world was like the best success that you could ever have. And that's what I became. And at 11, I started smoking weed, started moving a little bit of weed around school, and then 13, I really started dealing, and then it really started growing to a massive delivery service around the city. By the age of 19, I was generating about $5 million of revenue, profiting about $2 million myself with a partner, and it was a crazy system because we just started like on a corner giving out like business cards, thinking like we need to act more professional because we need to uh, 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 be more attractive to the new clientele that was coming to the neighborhood. So the in the early 2000s, the Lower East Side was like the hipster, hip town. It was like where like every the first when we talk about gentrification in America, it started in the Lower East Side. You know, when these neighborhoods are making fun of gentrification, it was this neighborhood that was the first neighborhood. Then it went to Williamsburg. Then it went to like Bed-Stuy and Bushwick and Brooklyn and all that stuff. But it was a different story back then. And so when it really started getting gentrified, I stopped selling drugs at a certain amount on the street corner. I was making only like a 60% profit. And when I started dealing and started doing delivery services to like these hipsters, I was making 150% profit. So I was
Wow.
making a lot of profit off of that, and I had over 20 people working for me. It was a big operation, but eventually everything went down. At 23, I was sentenced to 7 years in prison. And it was not my first time in the system. I've been in and out of jail since 13, and was arrested about a dozen times. And I didn't see a way out but to become a better drug dealer. Every time I went in, did a year here, did a year there. I always thought about like, all right, the reason why I got caught was because of this. It was never because I was doing the wrong thing and I shouldn't be doing this. It was just trying to be sneakier and trying to find out how to do it a better way. And so, eventually it caught up. And when I got that long stint, I thought I was facing life. I was facing 15 of life because they were trying to hit me with a kingpin charge. It was my third felony. And thank God to the New York State, like, drug Rockefeller laws, they got reformed the same time I was going back and forth to court. So God was by my side, and I got 7 years. And when I went in, um, I thought I was just going to do my time and get out and maybe go back to the streets, because I was already, trying to sneak stuff in. I had officers bring stuff in for me. It was a whole crazy system that I was never going to leave, because I didn't really see any avenue to leave with. But it was when I went upstate to actual prison, that's when I found out I had a lot of health issues. And I went in there, and doctors told me that my cholesterol levels were through the roof. That if I didn't start eating correctly, that I could probably die of a heart attack. And that caught me off guard. And I was like, "What?" Like, they told me I only had 5 years to live. I have 7 years to do. Like, I could die in this place. And so I started exercising. I used my time, productively, and I just started running the prison yard, started doing push-ups, dips, jumping jacks, all types of calisthenic workouts, in my cell. And eventually I lost over 70 pounds in 6 months. And then I helped over 20 inmates, who was over 1,000 pounds combined while I was in prison. We would just be in the yard working out together, just building this camaraderie. I didn't think I was going to start a business behind it. But it was towards the end of my incarceration where I felt like I had like a light bulb went off, and I was just determined to do what I said and wrote, in my time that I was incarcerated. Um, and I did this. I basically wrote a business plan in solitary confinement where I was in 24-hour lockdown, and just in my thoughts, and just trying to figure out my whole next life was going to be, out of the system. And this is where ConBody was basically birthed, and I came home. It was not easy. Nobody wanted to give me capital. I was basically going after people in the streets, telling them I was doing this boot camp in the park, and just bootstrapping the whole thing. And I bumped into this program called the Five Ventures. The program that you and I met, Mike, and it really changed my life. It changed my whole trajectory, and really educated me on how to do things the right way, and that doing the things the right way can actually be more productive in life. And so they taught me how to pay taxes. They taught me how to, start my own business and come up with an actual business plan. And so it was an incredible process that I trust and that I adopted, and I'm still using today. Just going hard and showing up and just doing the work and enjoying the process.
Hmm.
A lot of people um, feel like they're alone and all this stuff. I don't know. I'm enjoying the process with my staff. I enjoy the process. Going through all the ups and downs and trying to figure it out. And it could be stressful, but I just feel like time shall pass and we'll get through whatever situation that we're in out of. As long
Hmm.
as we have a good block and a good community behind us. So yeah, I mean, that happened. ConBody was born, and so we've since the inception of ConBody, we've trained over 70,000 people around the world, virtually, in person. And I got to open up my gym about 3 years out of prison, by just like saving up my money, doing a whole bunch of pitch competitions, gathered up whatever I had, and I eventually rented out a basement under a Buddhist temple, and that became like the ConBody headquarters for 3 years, and then we moved to a big location down the block on Lilo Street, and now we're on like a bigger corner location down across the street from the old location, but it's I'm basically on Main Street,
Hmm.
and so to see where we came from the park to the basement and the Buddhist temple to going to like a second floor loft to taking over a whole corner. It's just been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
uh, but it's been wild, but it's been fun. It's been fun. And
No,
then
that's
and then
yeah. No, I want to definitely unpack ConBody here a little more, but back to your experience. When you were incarcerated, cost. The recidivism rate is sky high in this country, as you know. And I know you said you were in and out. What was it about you that drove you for that the hope and the dream to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do? Was it the health scare with the heart, the cholesterol, the hey, you've got 5 years to live? What really what made you different? And I know there's so many inspirational stories out there of other individuals that have maybe had a similar path, but for you specifically, was there something that the light just flipped one day when you were in your cell, or like, okay, I have to change and here's why?
well, the change happened while I was inside, and while I was inside solitary confinement. So I was placed in solitary confinement for having an altercation with an officer, and this officer basically said I was about to attack him, and I turned around on him while he was searching me, and so they beat the crap out of me. They throw me in solitary confinement. What really got me shooken up was that I had 2 months left towards my release. I was about to be released in our early release program, and so my whole family was waiting for me. My son was waiting for me. Like I thought I was coming home. Turning my life around, getting into fitness, and in that prison cell, I was just thinking, what can I do? What can I do when I come home? And I was there sitting in boredom, and I remember my sister writing me a letter, and she finds out I'm in solitary confinement, and she says, "Hey, I know something bad happened. We called the prison, but I'm praying for you." And my sister's like super religious, like I call her Mother Teresa's child. She she writes me and says, "Read Psalm 91 from the Bible," and I was like, "What?" Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, "Whatever." Like, what is God gonna do? Like, I'm in the box, you know. And
Yeah.
so, um, and days went by. I'm in solitary, sweating. It's the middle of July, and it's hot as fuck. No air. Sorry, excuse my language, but there's no AC. Just like a little drip off a little sink of water that I could get to sip on. You know, and it was probably contaminated with some shit. But um, at that moment, out of boredom, I had this Bible just staring in my face, and was just looked at it, and I was like, all right, let me just read whatever my sister told me to read. So I searched for Psalm 91 that states, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say, the Lord, He is my shelter, my fortress, my God, in whom I trust."
Hmm.
And as I was reading those words, a stamp fell out of my Bible, and that stamp was significant because I went into the cell not being able to communicate with anyone. I couldn't tell my son that I was in solitary. I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't ask to review this false claims that this officer said I was doing something wrong. I couldn't communicate, with anybody. And I remember having this letter that I wrote out, but I had no stamp to send it out with. And when that stamp fell out of my Bible was when I felt like there was, I don't know, I felt chills run down my body. I felt like there was something that gave me some sort of hope,
Yeah. Wow.
to keep going. And I got to mail that letter to my family and let them know, like, the whole situation. I eventually ended up doing an extra year in prison behind that situation. Um, and I came home, and I was determined to do ConBody nonstop, and it was born out of desperation. It's like I went to so many job interviews and filled out application. I mean, this is before you even filled out an application online. I had to like run around with a resume and go from store to store, and every time I gave those resumes to those store managers, all I wanted was just like a bullshit retail job, whatever I could find, and I handed these resumes, and I would see when they would ask me about my criminal record, I would just see their faces just change, and I was never getting a call back, and so I continued doing fitness, and then alongside that, I was cleaning apartments with my uncle. So my uncle had like a cleaning job, and I was basically working under him. Yeah, it was just crazy. The shit that I had to go through because of my criminal record. Like I was, I felt like I was not a citizen because I had to use his social security to actually work.
Yeah.
He was paying me, and I was basically doing all the work, and so I'm just giving him a cut on. I was making 8,000 an hour, and just kept doing that on the side, kept doing whatever side gigs that I could do, kept doing Defy, kept doing ConBody, and my mission when I started ConBody with Defy, because I really didn't have a mission when I was writing this business plan in solitary confinement. All I thought was I was just going to do like a fitness program and do like boot camp classes and stuff, and Defy really made me think of like what is my mission. And so the idea of hiring people coming out of the prison system became my mission. And so that's what we've done. We've hired over 100 people coming out of the system
Wow.
through my nonprofit, through for-profit business, and yeah, and still continue to have a zero recidivism rate.
Wow.
We still, communicate with pretty much everybody, that we've had. I've been doing this already. I've been home since 2013 March, so it's been over 11 years now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's beautiful. So you get back and you're working these side hustles that you can possibly find with, you know, feeling like you said, like the cards are still stacked against you, right? With everyone looking at your prison record and starting ConBody. What was, I guess, the biggest challenge for taking, you said you looked at it going from just a boot camp style workout to an actual company, right? And I know I've been there in the trenches of that of that startup phase. It can be really lonely and hard. And what was, I guess, the next, aha moment for you, or what was the first big break that you felt you finally got to get ConBody kind of to the next level for your business?
I mean, it was throughout um, the last 11 years, there've been a lot of aha moments and a lot of moments where you put your head down and you're like, damn, how the hell do I get out of this hole? Um, but I think one of the biggest issues that I had was raising funds. I wanted to open up a facility. I wanted to build a community around us and, make this successful. And I couldn't get the money. Nobody wanted to invest in me. I proven that I was able to run like a profitable business, and do it the right way. And nobody wanted. I pitched. I don't know how many times I pitched, but maybe 1,000 times.
Wow.
Um, and I was relentless, and I just kept going, and just felt like somebody was going to give me something, And the first person that gave me money was one of my mentors in Defy. Um, and she called me up and she said, I want to help you out. I love what you're doing. She was coming to the classes a lot, and she gave me my first 25 grand.
Wow.
And then, I won this pitch competition where Barbara Corcoran was hosting, with this like young entrepreneurial network. It's called YPO. Um, they she I won another 25 grand in investment, through that. And then I felt like that was like a big aha moment, that I pitched in front of Barbara Corcoran and these other execs, and my my top two competitors. It was basically a lot of people that competed, and I was the top three, and my other two competitors was somebody that had a MBA at Wharton and somebody else that had an MBA at Harvard, and had these amazing companies generating more revenue than me. So I was like, all right, they probably gonna win, But I think what captivated the judges more was that it was just not another business just trying to make money. It was a business that's doing good while making money, like genuinely like changing people's lives. And so um, that was a big aha moment there, and more. But
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. You know, when we were at Defy, and I know the leaders of the organization had you stand up and say a few words in front of those men. It was clear when you got in front of them, it was a different vibe than, the rest of us. And you were such a powerful voice of inspiration to them, and you could see it and feel it, the energy in the room, that those guys looked at you as hope, and that inspiration. How have you taken, your message and what I saw that day with those men, in that prison gymnasium, and when you start to hire, former incarcerated individuals that come out, they're looking for that second chance, And what's the message that you're running through ConBody, that you're running through all of your organizations, as far as the second chance and how it is possible?
Sorry, you cut off a lot there. I was trying to make out the words, but
Sorry.
um,
No. So just asking. So, you know, how do you take your message and the inspiration that you've shown so many already? How do you take it when you're hiring those that are deserving and looking for a second chance as well?
I think I got what he's saying. um, yeah, I remember that moment when we went to that prison and I spoke there, and I've spoken in a lot of prisons, and um, the inspiration. I mean, I feel like I get more energy out of those prison visits than the inmates do, and it just gives me power to keep going. I feel like every day is just a beginning. The company is still, I feel like it's infancy stages, and we could still grow and do more and help more people. But I don't know. I don't really get overwhelmed with. There's so many people coming out of the prison system that hit me up, and I don't go get overwhelmed with the people like asking for help. I try to make time for everybody as much as I can. And if a lot of people that have heard me while I was incarcerated came home and simply just paid a visit and showed up at my door and and say what's up, and they'll talk to me about what their inspiration might be to start a business or to work in this job or pursue education, and you know and I give them whatever the answers that I have with me. Like I give it away, whatever, business plans or whatever it is, that person might need to pursue that dream. And I have the resources, whether it's just a connecting the boxes with somebody on an email thread or a phone call. Like I give it all away as much as I can.
Sure. So take me through ConBody. What's next? So you got a big studio now, and you're offering group style classes in person. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we do in person and virtual classes. So we have live stream cameras in the studio, so people tune in, and then we do we also train inside the correctional facility. So we go into Rikers Island, we go into the juvenile facilities. We train inmates now to become trainers, so the train to trainer model. And when they come home, we give them an internship to work at our facility. And if they want to become trainers and get acclimated on a group training facility scope, because most of it is personal training inside, then we help them out and try to have them cross over. Um, yeah, I mean, what's next with ConBody? I'm working on franchising right now, and so that's been a mission and a half to do. But that's one of my dreams, is to like really expand this, and has always been like what I aspire to do. I feel like the model works in one place, we could really grow it in multiple places, and really just help people, um, just help people on both sides, whether it's health wise or employment wise. That's what I aspire to do. Just be good.
Yeah,
That's it.
I hear you. Well, I know you've got your hands in a couple different things now, and it's funny when we were at Defy, you were telling me as well, a lot of the men in there have that natural born entrepreneurial drive, right? It's just maybe the energy is put into a different negative situation. So it's no surprise that when a lot get out, they have that entrepreneurial dream and ultra successful. And, so some of the things that, inspires me about you is you don't stop with one idea, you keep going with others. So what are some of the other things you're getting into now? I know, uh, the media industry and the cannabis industry are a couple that I think I've read about recently. But what are some other, avenues that you see, that you're going down these days?
Sorry, I missed that the last piece. It was very choppy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the audio. I apologize. What other businesses are you getting into these days?
Yeah, so I'm in the cannabis business right now. So I'm dealing again. I'm back.
Legally.
For anybody that needs illegally, it's been a crazy full circle because it was actually around 2017, 2018. One of my friends got like one of the first Massachusetts license, and he asked me to run his business. He was like, "Hey, can you be the CEO? You know how to run businesses, all that stuff." This guy used to like buy weed off of me in Rhode Island. Like I used to take trips from New York, bring weed to Rhode Island, and you know, this was like 20 plus years ago, and now he got one of the first licenses. So he's like, do you want to run this? And I was like, hell yeah, and so he was like, all right, I need your information, all this stuff. I got to submit it to the state, and the state said no, because of my criminal record. And so it was like, wow, this is crazy. How someone that has gotten caught with cannabis and sold cannabis, how is that person not allowed to sell cannabis? It just doesn't make any sense. I'm more of the expert in this space than that person, coming up with the regulations. And so that was something that I was speaking on a few panels about, the fact that it was just unfair for individuals that were arrested for this not to be able to work in the space. And there was people like, pushing to not allow people like myself to get in the space. But in New York, they were doing it different. In New York, they realized that most of the neighborhoods that were being incarcerated for cannabis were black and brown people. And so what they decided to do was not follow every other state, which every other state basically allowed medical cannabis to transfer over to, recreational right away. They said, all medical, you have to wait. We're going to allow the recreational start with individuals that have been justice impacted first. And so you needed the conviction on your record, and then you also needed to show 2 years of net profitable business in the past. And so I was able to submit my business with ConBody, and then also show, that I was convicted. And so I submitted my record, I applied everything, and I was fortunate enough to receive one of the first licenses. I was the 27th license to open up in New York State, and so we've been operating since October of last year now. Until almost 6 months, and it's been a trip. So in the same corner we have the cannabis dispensary called ConBud, and then upstairs is ConBody. And so I'm running both businesses in one location. I have 38 employees in both spaces,
Wow.
running the whole thing, and it's been a process. And that's why, hence the vault. The vault is where we keep all our stuff at, and so it's very secure down here.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know you and I talked last week, and I'm excited to get out and do a class this summer and come visit you, man. But, um, Coss, I have two last questions for you. The first one is, what's one thing you learned about yourself throughout this process in your life? Let's just take the last 10 to 12 years. What's one thing you've learned about yourself?
um, I think what I learned most was that um, you know, just being authentic, being goes a long way, and just like being that like 16-year-old self, just being that like that person that was growing up that didn't really care about rules, but now I do care about rules, but not to be that person that's going to be fake or hide behind your back or just just keep it real as much as I can, and that I don't have to like walk into a room and show something that I'm not, you
Hmm.
know, because I felt like there was a throughout the process of becoming an entrepreneur, you want to dress to impress. Obviously, you want to you're meeting and shaking a lot of hands, and I just don't want to be that fake person in the room, and
Sure.
so through the process, I think that's one thing that I just try to like learn throughout the process because you might get caught up with all that stuff and think that's so important, and you got fake people around you and think that they got your back, but
Hmm.
they really don't,
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Awesome. And my last question for you: what advice would you give to someone who's hearing the whisper of a dream or a path in life that it seems too crazy to chase and all the odds are stacked against them? What advice would you give them?
uh, I would just say like present it to your friends, present it to your families, members, and just say, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? Would you buy this? Would you buy this? And then actually execute on whatever it is you want to sell. Whether it's like a massage or or a speaker, whatever it is, don't hide it within yourself. A lot of people hear that whisper and they think about an idea, and they don't really talk about it because they don't want to let people in their idea because they feel like they're gonna steal it. It's like the more you talk about it, the more you put it out there, the more it actually becomes. And so if you hear that whisper, just try to execute with the closest people around you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Coss, I appreciate you being with me today and being such a massive inspiration to all of us, really, that we are not our past, and the future is bright if we choose to see it that way. And definitely going to keep following along. I'm sure there's going to be something brand new just months down the road and a year down the road. You're always getting into something new, and it's fun to watch your path and your journey, man. So keep pushing, keep it inspiring, and thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you.